Oh, you're right. Okay. Oh, was I supposed to wait for that?
No.
Okay. Okay. Got it. So, like I said, the big changes. The first domino that had to fall was a new ILS. We had ALMA previously, and it was through a consortium with other community colleges in Tennessee. I started at Motlow in fall of 2017, and my first day, I walked in, sat down, and they showed me, and I was like, what's this VSCC, and what's this PSCC? And they said, that's Fall State, that's Fellowship State. And I was like, oh, so we can see all their collection, and we can see all of their patrons and modify them. And they're like, yeah, we have to be real careful when we're weeding. And I was like, oh, this is not cool. And so from that point on, I was like, this has to change if I'm going to work here. Like, I just cannot deal with this. And so I led a charge to get a new ILS. And at that point, I had worked with Cersei, so I totally feel your pain. Although I color my hair. I can recommend a stylist. You have to travel to Tennessee, but so yes, I worked with Cersei and worked with Verso, but I had never worked with any open source at all. So I'll get to that a little bit later. But another thing was I wanted a new discovery system because again, we use Primo because Primo is the discovery layer of ALMA. And you would have to honestly click 2 or 3 pages into it to find something that was relevant. I don't know what algorithm it's using, but it just was not returning stuff that I knew was in our collection that should have come up with that search. It was frustrating for students and for library staff as well, and our faculty. And also, I wanted a new CMS platform. We use SpringShare's LibGuides, which I had to fight to get because they didn't have LibGuides before. And I was like, we need some subject guides, you guys. And so we got it. And that was really clunky on the back end. Do you guys use LibGuides at all, SpringShare stuff? Familiar with it? Maybe? Yes, no? Okay. It was really clunky on the back end. I didn't like it. So then we moved to Expo Stacks for it. So it's just been a huge migration. We did all of that this year. Wait, this is 2022, last year. So we did all of that like July 1. It was ginormous. And the staff were terrified. I had one staff member, she's a librarian, she was really upset because she was there for a migration from Millennium to Alma, and it all kind of fell in her lap. And so she was crying. She was traumatized from that, you guys. And she said, I just can't do this again. And I said, we will not be alone. That's the beauty of Koha is we're not paying for the software. We're paying for the customer service. And I think once they had their heads wrapped around it, they were just like, oh, okay. And they really came on board after that. So that were the big changes. So my ILS priorities, first thing I wanted local control. Like I told you, that consortium thing was just crazy. And also the way it was set up, they had limited admin accounts. So only one person could have an admin account. And then like our part-time staff had to actually share a login. So if something went wrong, you really didn't know who was responsible for what. Like it was crazy. And then for adding some things to the catalog that might have been tricky, we had to rely on a university, Tennessee Tech, had to rely on their tech services people to put stuff in the catalog for us. And I was just not comfortable relying on somebody else's staff. And not that I don't think anything bad about them, but what if they go get another job, you know? And then I have to wait for Tennessee Tech to hire somebody so I could have my stuff done. And I just was not at all comfortable with that. So that was a big deal for me. Patron privacy, like I said, all it took was one disgruntled employee at any of these schools to just really go in there and mess something up, you know? And they have access to all of the patrons' information to edit it, change it, see what they have checked out, obviously, check things out to them. I just was not cool with that. And then collection integrity, the weeding situation that I was talking about. And we just did an inventory of 2 of our branches. This past week, we just scanned it all to a spreadsheet. We're about to do all that in the Koha. Donna, you might be getting a call in a second. And then the customer service aspect. The ticketing system in Alma, you guys, it was really not friendly. And then when they would respond, sometimes it would be, we have a video on our website. And I'm like, you know that. I asked you for help on this thing. I've already watched that video. Because like you guys, probably, when you work in a library, you exhaust all of your own resources. Like, because you don't want to go to people with a question that you think you should know the answer to, or you could try and find the answer yourself. And so we would always try and find the answer ourselves, and then they would refer us back to the things we've already done. And it was just exhausting. And it would take 2 or 3 days for them to respond. I did not like it at all. It was not customer service. And I'm not here to try and like talk bad about them, but I'm just telling y'all my lived experience. That's all I can say. And the language Alma uses was not like librarian jargon. When I went through the trainings, for example, just like circulation desk duties, they called it like fulfillment or something. They didn't call things, it was just weird. Some of the, and that's all I can recall off the top of my head, but I just remember, oh, okay, that's what they mean by that. Like I kept constantly having to do that. It was almost like software speak instead of librarian speak. And so what I really appreciate so much about Koha, and particularly the Bywater team in general, is it's all librarian jargon. Like there's no translating that has to be done. Cost, well, you guys know this, the cost is so much better. We needed something that, because our physical item stuff is kind of dwindling, I couldn't justify the return on investment for what we were paying for Alma, because so many students are using our digital resources, and we just use our ILS mainly for checking physical items out. And we also did a huge push for OER. We've got a lot of classes that have moved to open educational resources. And so we wanted to put our money where our mouth is. I could not in good conscience help faculty find open educational resources stuff or advocate for them to use it or create it if I was using proprietary software. So this helped us kind of, it lended some integrity to our push to OER. And of course, it had to integrate with all the third-party platforms. We use Banner for our student information, then EDS and Stacks. Our single sign-on, that's how our students kind of get in. And it's Okta, that's why I put it out there. So I knew that that's what I needed. And I didn't know anything about open source software except something I read in Marshall Breed's and Libraries Magazine. And so I sent a question on the listserv, ACRL listserv, before it moved to Connect. And I was like, hey, have any of you guys ever used an open source ILS? And so these are some of the responses that I got back. They switched to Koha and Bywater, best decision they made. Price was a lot lower and the service was wonderful. This is actually all from the same email. She wrote me a whole big God stuff. The old service was terrible, she said. And they're a small community college in rural Iowa. And every time I put in call or put in a ticket, they would make me feel stupid. And I was just, I understood that, but I mean, she put that right in words. And she said it's easy to catalog issues. Yeah, Bywater team's always willing to help, and students make changes on our account very easily. She said the selling point for them was the option to send text messages, overdue notices to students and faculty, and they can easily renew items on their own. So reports, that's another thing. We didn't have access to the reports in Alma for some reason. It was very strange, the way that it was all set up. So if you need a report, they'll write or help write a report, a bank of reports. So I get into the reports and just dig around, and I can drill down into some data. So I really enjoy running all the reports. The migration was very easy and painless, and I can attest to that. Like, it was easy and painless. And so that really meant a lot to me when I read that. So this is what happened when you go from Google Slides to PowerPoint, y'all. Boo. Okay. So anyway, I did not design this way, just FYI. So the local control bit, that was one of my priorities. We configured everything with the help from the Bywater team. The overdue notices, the patron identifiers, all the circulation policies. It really gave us an opportunity to look at what we were doing and say, is this still what we want to do? like we made changes about different things based on the need. And since it was in the middle of the pandemic when we were doing all this, because I think we started the migration process, I guess, to the tail end of 2020 and went into 2021. So we were in the pandemic going, you know what? This, because we kept having to override stuff in Alma because we allowed students to have things for a much longer time, obviously, because they were studying from home. And so we're like, maybe we should just change the circulation policy for good, let them keep us longer. It just really gave us an opportunity to evaluate our various policies and just see what kind of library we wanted to be. The little mapping process that we got in Google Drive, that really allowed us, it was a really good visual to see, this is what it's called in Alma. This is what it will be called in Koha. So it was really great. The other priority was patron privacy. You guys obviously know that no patron data is shared outside of Motlow libraries now because we are not in a consortium. Not that I'm opposed to consortium, I just want it to be set up right, And I think it would be cool if all the other community colleges in Tennessee hopped on this bandwagon and we did a consortium with Koha. Right now, I believe that we are the only community college that's on Koha right now. Is that right, Josh? Tennessee? Yeah.
Yeah, Tennessee.
Yeah, that's what I thought. And there's not a university on it either. Just
there are
like spots. I know University of Tennessee has like one of the libraries, the health and science. Yes, yeah, but not the whole big library. And that's weird. I don't know. That's weird. Okay. Anyway, so that's really exciting, and we don't keep the circulation history. That was one of our choices that we made. Oh my gosh, this is driving me crazy. Okay. So the collection integrity, obviously the threat of unauthorized reading was removed. And then what was really great during the migration, they cleaned up a lot of stuff that was not right. Some things that were fast added by a librarian previously that really probably should have been attached to another bib record. Just a lot of that stuff. Bywater staff helped clean it all up for us. That was fantastic. So we didn't have to do that. I love that. And of course, the customer service, I've already mentioned, and you guys know that Bywater is a customer service organization staffed with librarians, you guys. And they speak our language. And they're fun and friendly. We had a great time in our training. Laughed a whole lot. When Donna introduced me to her husband this morning, she was like, this was when I was laughing really loud. When I was working with the Tennessee people. Yeah. So, and then the whole unlimited support tickets. That's a game changer because, I'll try and figure something out, but then if I don't, I'll just put in a ticket. And I mean, it's same day, next day, hey, and the communication constantly be, I'm working on this, or hey, we haven't heard anything from you. Does this ticket still need to be open? What's up with that? Like, it's just the communication I just adore with the Bywater team. Cost, the migration year was about the same as I put Koha contract on that. See, that's what happened. I had Koha on the brain. It's supposed to say Alma there. The migration year was about the same as our Alma, but the subsequent years are less than half of what we were paying. So I used those savings for EDS, that's our discovery layer that we're using, and Stacks as our CMS platform. And everyone at school is just really excited that we've done this open source thing. And our faculty are really on board, so much so now that the library is housing the Academic Resource Center, which is going to be a faculty and staff, but mainly faculty. It's a resource platform for kind of like subject guides for faculty. And so we're going to be working with them on that. So it's really helped our relationship with faculty. And in the academic world, faculty are the gatekeepers to the library. Students are not going to use that library unless they have an assignment that takes them to the library. So relationships with faculty are the utmost importance to get library use going or increase library use. And then the integration with the third-party platforms, it works beautifully. We have largely nothing I do, largely because of Bywater, and then our information security officer, William, I've put him in the library too. He has an office. I reappropriated one of the study rooms. I was like, you can have an office here. And so I have the head of internet security in my office because, you know, anytime I can get IT in the building that lives in the building, like this is great. And we've become really good friends, and he helps out so much. He's on the tickets too. Whenever tickets come through, he gets them and helps out. So he did a lot of, I don't know, the programming stuff that had to be done to, that's not my language. That's not what I do. But he and the Bywater people back and forth to make everything run smoothly. And it does. Things are great. This comes from the PDF that Bywater sends out. So the 3 stages of the migration. So, I mean, it's scaffolded the whole way. You're never alone. You're always, you always have them there to talk to you for any questions that you may have. And for the migration, there is that handbook, the one that I just told you about. And it's got worksheets in it that you fill out. And they use Dropbox for all the files. The ticket system is introduced then. And you can choose, as I remember, you can choose like who can put in tickets. Is that right? Okay. And I was just like, what's everybody? Because I don't want to close that down. So anybody that works in our library can put in the ticket if they need to. I don't know how y'all feel about that, but I'm cool with it. So they normally, they always ask me first. They're like, hey, is there a thing? And I'm like, yeah, that's fine. Ask them. I don't want to limit somebody's independence, you know, or feel like they're being stifled or whatever. So, and then of course, there are frequent meetings with the migration specialist to have any of the questions, and they Zoomed with us. And we actually shared our Alma screen because we couldn't get the information out of Alma. And we shared our Alma screen. And I remember when I'm stressed out, I run my fingers through my hair. And I just remember just sitting there and just being like, I don't know where this goes. And by the end, my hair was like this big, you guys. But we did it. And I think it was Annika was like, no, click that one, click that one. Let's see if that gets us what we need. And we'd run the report. And no, we had to go back and do it again. It was like 2.5 hours, but they were with us through the whole thing because we just could not get our data out of Alma. And I mean, they held our hand virtually through all of it. And then of course there's 3 days of training. We had ours virtually, and the unlimited ticket system after that. Look, see, man, this does not look like this in Google Slides, I promise. Okay, so if I were to respond to the same question that I asked, that would be what I would say. That we were never alone in this process. And Bywater's migration team 100% knows what they're doing, and they're kind and they're helpful. Kindness is a big deal for me. I feel like I could teach librarianship to anybody, but you can't teach kindness. And so kindness is a big deal for me. It feels more like working with coworkers than with a vendor. I still work with vendors, but we don't have this kind of relationship. It really is a partner system. So that is it. Any questions about anything I said? Yes, no? Yes. Okay, for those online, she asked if I collected any feedback from students who used the previous ILS and those who now have to use Koha. And the answer to that is, dang, that's a great idea. I wish I had. But at the time, let's see, I'm only a year in being library director. Our library director left February of 2020. Y'all know what happened in the beginning of 2020? So from March to January of 2021, we did not have a library director. So we have 3 degree librarians. We all shared the library directing duties, which meant that we had to unanimously decide on all of these changes that I referenced. Like I couldn't just say, this is what we're doing, you guys. It had to be this. So it was a committee without a committee chair, and we all had to be unanimous. It was a lot of persuasion. because I told you I had that one who was just like, no, we're not doing this. I'm terrified. It took a lot to get them on board. But they came around and things are great now. So that's where my focus was because I knew that this is where I needed to go. And so I didn't, and of course at the time we were just mainly focused on online services for our students and stuff. I wasn't thinking about doing a survey, the usability survey, but I would imagine that it would be a lot easier now because it is. It's easier for us. So any other questions? Yes. Okay, so we had a tech services person to do physical cataloging, digital cataloging. Actually, Motlow never really actually bought individual ebooks. We just have subscriptions of a whole bunch of them, you know, and so they would just bring those in. And all of the Tennessee libraries, for the most part, have the same through the state, through the Tennessee Board of Regents, the same kind of digital library. But anything individual, we would have to catalog ourselves. And so when the pandemic hit, I was like, guys, we need to start buying ebooks. And everybody agreed, yes, this is what we need to do. And we cut our magazine and newspapers because, first of all, we were virtual for over a year. And second of all, we didn't catalog those, so we're not getting usage off of them. And it was like $600 we were spending on that. And I was like, what? So we used that money to buy ebooks. And they were like, oh, how do we get these in our catalog, you guys? And so we had to reach out to Tennessee Tech to do that. But we've actually been minus a tech services person for over a year since pre-pandemic. It's been bad. I had 5 vacancies to fill when I took this job. And I have 2 new staffers starting next week, and I'm fully staffed. I'm so excited. I'm finally fully staffed. But yeah, one of those is the tech services person, but she has been working part-time. And so that's how I kind of wanted to slot her into this position. And so she's been cataloging. So she's cataloging now. She doesn't find it hard at all because I'm not a cataloger, but I know it integrates with the OCLC stuff and you just pull it that way. And yeah, I didn't like that part of my resume. I do advocate. I'm library advocate. That's what I do. I shake hands and get money for libraries. That's what I do. Any other questions? Well, I'm tickled to be here with y'all today. Oh, yeah. Oh, I didn't. Wow. Okay. That's fine. How do I get in working with libraries? Oh, he asked, how did I get in working with libraries? Yes. Because he already knows this. I told him last night. So my undergrad is vocal performance and theater. And I had children and became a stay-at-home mom and took them to the library for story time. And the youth services librarian there was, but I'm a performer. So I was like, I volunteer to do a story time. And so I did. And then that led to, oh, can you do summer reading performances? Why, sure. So then I started doing summer reading performances at the library. And then I got a job working at the school in which my children attended as like a teacher's aide and lab tech. So I ran the lab there. And my son has autism, so I just got tired of fighting the school there for all of his needs. And I was looking at another school system a town away. And I went over there and checked them out. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I really like this. And the tuition, we could afford it. So I quit my job there and would drive my kids to this other school and would just sort of hang out while they were in school and then pick them up and go home. And I would hang out in the park, go for a walk on the green room. Then I'd go to the coffee shop and I'd go to the library. And I'd been in that library previously performing for summer reading something, but so I kind of knew the people. And I was like, do y'all have a youth services person? And they said no. And so I was like, you need to hire me. And they were like, I don't know about that. And I literally went every day and would just knock on the director's door and be like, you need to hire me, until she finally did. And so I was youth services librarian there for 2 years. And then was like, I think I want to be a library director. What do you got to do that? And I was like, oh, you have to have a master's. Okay. So I talked to my husband and quit that job and went full-time on my master's. And did that, and now I'm a library director. So that's what I do. Yes, sir.
So we have a question online.
Oh, okay.
We want to know, how does your ILL staff like get pros?
Oh, okay. The ILS staff, we have one. She's our ILL librarian, and she likes it the way that we have it set up. Is we have a patron in Koha. That's what we use, and we check it out to the ILL person in Koha. So no complaints. We just had to figure out a way to do it. It works fine. That's what we use. That's how we do it. So yes.
You're an incredible speaker.
Oh my gosh, thanks. I feel like I just rambled today. Thanks. Anything else? How are we on time? Do I need to do the tap dance? Like I'm just wondering. Okay. Okay. Well, do what?